Hello, I'm Joan Childs, and welcome to the 8th part of a 10-part series on inner child work. Today I'm going to talk about my two most effective tools that I use for trauma. And one of them is called neurolinguistic programming that I've studied many times over the years, over the 48 years that I have been in practice. And the other one is EMDR that I studied about 30 years ago with Francine Shapiro, who really was the innovator and founder of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Both these modalities are very effective in really trying to unleash whatever the struggle has been from early childhood wounds that has been carried into your adult life and has been interfering with the quality of your life. So let me first start with neurolinguistic programming, often known as NLP. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, I don't have the time on a video to explain everything to you. So just the highlights and how effective it is in treatment of trauma. And insecure attachments, different attachment disorders. So if you want to know more than I can provide in this short video, I suggest you just look it up on Google, and it will give you a wonderful description and explanation of how it works and what its intentions are, and the people that started it, John Grinder, and I can't remember the other one's name right offhand, but I studied it, I would say, about 30 years ago. I spent 3 different sessions, 3 different times that I took the coursework. In those days, it was the people that are not even around anymore, but it was very effective and very interesting, something that was really different than I had been originally trained in, which was psychodynamic theory. But that was in the olden days. Since I've been around since 1978, things have evolved to where we really know a lot more and a lot more effective technology that is better now for the specific use of post-traumatic stress disorder and early childhood wounds that we carry with us. Many of those wounds, by the way, manifest in addictive behaviors, and our culture is really an addictive it really has addictions. So most of my clients who have had early trauma work or early trauma from childhood and that have been what I would call unable to be self-regulated, they're all over the place. They can't really contain their feelings that manifest. And so I want to share my two favorite modalities. There are more. It depends on the person. I do use Gestalt work as well as NLP and EMDR and psychodrama. But I happen to really think that these two modalities, EMDR and NLP, are my most effective tools. And it just could be my favorite because it's my choice, as we all have different favorites, and those of us who work with inner child work or early trauma work. So let me start with EMDR. Let me start with NLP because that's the first one that I took. Neurolinguistic programming is really it's using the five senses that we have: audio, well, not really, all of them, I would say, mainly audio and visual and kinesthetic. Kinesthetic meaning feelings. So with going through the programs, I had learned that the first thing they want to teach you is rapport. That comes easily for me because I just have a natural way of gaining rapport with clients and with people, generally speaking. And having reached the ripe old age of 84, and be 85 in October, experience and the years that I've used this technology, it's like in the back of my hand. It's like anybody else that's been practicing something for 30 or 40 years. You really get good at it. And of course, it's really expanded from its inception. So what it is using the 5 senses, primarily the 3, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. We're able to regress clients back to the original pain that they suffered when they were very young, very innocent, very vulnerable, very impressionist, and impressionable. These left some emotional scars and they were internalized, and it resulted in a lot of addictive behaviors in trying to fill the emptiness, the pain that they suffered when they were too young to be able to handle this. So in using NLP, I regress the client to earlier life experiences, taking them all the way back to around the age of 6 or 7. Some of them have memories and some of them don't. So it really brings back repressed memories and emerges it into the conscious, where it had not been. It had been in the unconscious for so many years. And it is the unconscious that dictates our behavior. The conscious does not. And the proof of the pudding is when people want to quit smoking, let's say, and they say they've got to quit, they're going to get sick, the doctor warned them they're going to have some problems, and it would be like saying, so then why don't you just quit? It's not that easy, because it doesn't come from a conscious part of the mind. It comes from the unconscious that dictates our behavior, and it's a compulsion. It's something that you can't stop. That's what addiction is, something you can't stop. So basically what I do is I regress them to their original pain whenever they first felt either the abuse, the abandonment, or the neglect. And these are people who have been abandoned, abused, and neglected to various degrees. Because most families, I should say all families, are dysfunctional from a greater or lesser degree. And when I regress them, I have them go back to the time that they were a child and relive the experience that they had that caused the wound that has still been with them sometimes until the end of their lives if they don't work it out. But working it out is just like taking a Roto-Rooter in a sink that's been stuffed up with gook and cleaning it out so that clean water can go through. The gook that is stuck in their mind that they're not even aware of. Most of them don't even remember, or if they remember, it's on an intellectual level, not on an emotional level. They really are not working through it. So my job is to bring them back to the feeling level and to have them see what they saw or see what they see now, hear what they hear, and feel what they feel. I usually start out with a positive anchor, having them to go to a safe place, or a place that they had a lot of positive memories with, so that I can anchor them. And what do I mean by anchor? I physically have them either touch something in their body, usually their heart with their hand, or their thumb with their index finger, or some part of their body where they can feel what they're remembering on a positive level. So let's say they had an opportunity where they went somewhere else in Europe or on a beach or a mountainside, and it was really something that they never want to forget because it was so memorable. So they may go back to that experience, and then I anchor them by having them touch either their thumb to their index finger or their right hand to their heart, some part of their body, that they can anchor it kinesthetically with the memory, the positive. So that gives them a positive anchor. Then holding that anchor, I take them back to their original pain. And when they see what they see and hear what they hear and feel what they feel, they can keep themselves grounded by having that anchor that I gave them in a positive experience. And then what they can do as an adult now is go back and be the champion of the child who couldn't really protect himself or herself when they were so little. And then I have them give back the shame and the pain to the parent that might have been the one that perpetrated whatever that abuse was. And I have them act as a full-grown adult, which they are, and say what they needed to say that they didn't have the words to say or the understanding to say when they were little, when they were perpetrated upon. And that's a healing experience. It takes some time. It's not as quick as I'm saying it, but it's very effective. And there are different things in NLP that I do. There are different meditations that are very effective. There are times when I had to work with a certain part of their brain that generates these bad habits, and I have to try to negotiate with that part of their brain that is generating that bad habit, like, let's say, smoking, and find out what the positive intention is, because there's always a positive intention in every behavior. Even if it hurts you or it has damaging effects, the intention doesn't match the outcome. So I try to find out what the positive intention is and see if I can substitute that with some positive behaviors that can effectuate positive change. It's not as difficult as it sounds, but I work with that part of the brain by having a conversation with it as the therapist, and I ask the patient to agree or disagree by just nodding their head or using a finger to raise, so I know that they are willing to do that. And then there's still other modalities within the structure of NLP. They're very useful. But as I said, it's too long to go through. I just wanted to identify it so that if you want to know more about it, it's easy to find out. Just go on Google, do some research, and see if it appeals to you. The other one is EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. Fancy words that really means that you can take something in the past that was very traumatic, and you can kind of, I can't think of the word, but you can shrink it down to where it has no effect on you whatsoever any longer. And like phobias, when you had a bad experience when you were a child, whether it was with a parent or a peer or a teacher, and we can shrink it. We can make it disappear slowly. At first, when you ask the client how, from 0 to 10, what would you give it as a readout, like a Richter scale? How bad is it? And whatever they say, let's say they say 8 or 9 or even 10, the goal is to reduce it to 0, where it's just completely, gone. And it takes time. It takes about, I usually set up a 2-hour session for this, because it takes not only the time to do it, it's with eye movement, meaning that I do it very old-fashioned when I learned it from Francine Shapiro 30-something years ago. Today they have software for it, but I like to see it, and I like to be with the client and able to see their body language, not just on a screen, a monitor, because their body language tells me a lot more what if I just look at their face on a monitor. So it's a very simple structure, but it's very complicated in terms of how it works. So the structure of it is I had them sit across from me a little bit diagonally, and I had them think of what it is that is causing them pain and tension, stress, and whatever it might be in the here and now. Maybe it's a bad relationship, maybe it's about an accident they might have had, or a loss of money, or something that is giving them a lot of stress and makes them feel tense and interferes with their sleep, their eating, all of their neurodegenerative qualities. So they will identify it with me, and then I have them sit across from me, and their job is to do 3 things. It's to move their eyes back. The first they have to do is think of what it is that's bothering them, stay with that for a while, and then they have to move their eyes, and then they have to be aware of what they are experiencing as I'm moving their eyes back and forth. And I use a pencil, and I move their eyes back and forth. It's called like rapid eye movement. It's kind of like dream work. And there's something very, highly experiential in terms of feelings that somehow get evoked, where it eventually goes back to other experiences that are on the same thread in the brain, so that if let's say they had an experience where they were in a car accident when they were young, so they're in their 30s or their 40s or their 50s, and there's something that triggers that original pain. It takes, because it's on a thread in the brain and it's all wired together. So whatever they experience in the moment, like the here and now, is already in the brain, in the amygdala part of the brain, which is in the limbic system, which is the seat of emotions. So in there, it triggers it, and it fires off all of the bad issues that they had that has similar feelings or similar thoughts to the original pain. And as it fires it off, all kinds of things can happen within the body. They can even have the memory of what happened. They can have thoughts about it. They can visualize it, or they can even have body experiences. Let's say their heart rate goes up, or they get a headache. Whatever it is, it's something in the body that is giving them a sign that something is going on. So then it's my job, their job is to do three things. See the issue that they're going through, and then they have to move their eyes and be aware if there's anything that comes up, like a feeling, a memory, a picture, anything at all, or a body experience. Let's say their heart rate goes up. Hopefully I can get a sense by sitting really close to them and monitoring them that they had something that went on. I can usually tell. That's why I like to do this in person rather than on the internet. Although it's done on the internet, and a lot of therapists are very effective with it, but it's just my choice to see it in person. So I do it on if I can't be with them, I do it online also. But my preference is face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball. So when I'm doing it, I recognize that something's happening within their body. Let's say either they do a heave, like a sigh, like this, or they do a swallowing, or they shudder, or something gives me a sign or a clue that something's happening inside them. Sometimes I don't even have to wait for that to see myself. Sometimes they can tell me, I just got a memory, or I just got a thought, or I just got a picture of a cat crossing the street. It could be anything. And then I follow them, I track them, I go there, I have them focus on what they just experienced, and I do their eye movement again. And then it keeps going until we finally get to the root or the core issues. And then there's a lot of abreaction. By abreaction, I mean emotions that are revealed. Either they'll cry, or they get angry, or they shake, or their body experience gets more intense. And each time I do it, I say, give me a readout. What between 0 and 10, what is it now? And it usually reduces it as it goes on, but sometimes not. But wherever they take me, I follow it. It's almost like they're telling me where they need to go unconsciously, and I pick it up and I go where that is, the last experience or the last message that they got, whether it was auditorial, or it was a visualization, or it was a kinesthetic feeling, or it was a thought. And I follow them wherever they are. So that kind of wraps it up. But I also suggest that you go on Google and look up EMDR. I was very lucky to be able to study it with the innovator, with the original person who actually inadvertently and very serendipitously discovered it. The story is very interesting. She herself, who was a research psychologist in Palo Alto, California, she was just taking a walk from one part of the campus to part A to part B, and she was trying to get in touch with what was going on with her on a personal level. And as she was walking across the quadrangle of the campus and got to point B, she felt better, and she didn't understand why would that happen. Only a research psychologist would think about this. Pisses me off. I wish I could do that. But anyway, that's not my genre. So I learned from her that, and then she went back from point B to point A with another issue that she had, and the same thing happened. It reduced the anxiety and the level of stress. So as a research psychologist, she decided to set up a lab and use it to try with her own clients, her own patients. And they came in with trauma, nothing that they remember from the past, but something that had just happened right then in the here and now. And that was going on, let's say, for 6 or 8 weeks or 6 or 8 months. It was interfering with the quality of their life, and they shared it. And then she would move their eyes back and forth to see if they got. She thought that that moving the eyes was kind of like forcing eye movement, which we have automatically to discharge anything during the body or the mind from the day or what was going on. So when we go to sleep, we have rapid eye movement. So she was trying to simulate that by using a pencil and going back and forth with their eyes. And sure enough, they had the same experience that she had. After doing it several times, the feeling was not as intense as it had been when they started. So over the years, they have actually evolved EMDR and made it even more precise and given it more emphasis on certain things. But I am old-fashioned, as you know, and so I pretty much stick to the original that I learned. I added a few things that have been added since then, but basically it is something strange happens in the neurology, which I don't think we really understand it, but somehow by moving the eyes back and forth, there's some kind of neurology that's involved. It opens up repressed memories that are in the amygdala part of the brain and releases the trauma, the early trauma that happened, and also it resolves it. It resolves the conflict. And it's all done on an unconscious process that emerges into the conscious mind. It's kind of magical. It actually even looks almost like voodoo when you do it, but it's, and it was considered fringe therapy from the psychiatric community when it first came out, like a lot of modalities, but now it's fully accepted. And if you look up post-traumatic, what is the best kind of, therapeutic models for post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, you'll find that EMDR is number one on the in Google, and it has a wonderful description. So I invite you or suggest that you go on Google and look up neuro-linguistic programming, NLP is all you need to know, or EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and discover something that might be helpful to you. And in the meantime, have a wonderful night or wonderful day, wherever time you're seeing this. And I look forward to seeing you in my 9th series of this 10-part series on inner child work. Thank you so much. Bye.